Diana's main concern was to protect her own children. It was for their sake that she was soon to take unprecedented action against the paparazzi. Over the years, Diana posed willingly for the cameras with her boys. Photographers had never before been able to capture such intimate images of a royal mother with her children.
I thought she was raising the status of motherhood, which was very, denigrated in our society. And she was good copy. She provided us with great stories, and she was unlike the rest of the royal family.
Whether the cameras were on her or weren't on her, she was good with the children. She was always touching them, fiddling with their hair. So that obviously always looked very good in pictures.
The princes were fearless in front of the cameras at first. But the clamour for pictures became too much. William in particular started to resent the photographer's presence. And Diana resolved to protect her boys from the press intrusion that had become part of her daily life.
We had this conversation many times where she would say, I can deal with it to some extent, but I really, really don't like it when the children are around. She was very protective mother hen. She didn't want the children to go through that.
In April 1997, Diana's lawyers called Jane, asking her to come in and talk about a case they were preparing against paparazzi on the princess's behalf.
I think she was getting very worried about the situation with having this constant harassment from a core of photographers with her and the children.
As a parent, could I ask you to respect my children's space?
I went to London and I met with her lawyers, and they showed me a lot of photographs, and they wanted some technical details from me about what sort of lenses did I think they'd been taken with, what sort of distances. They wanted to know how did picture syndication work, how did agencies work, how these pictures were getting circulated and how they were getting taken.
The case was a huge gamble for Diana.
I think she was risking an awful lot doing it. I mean, to actually have to be put into witness box where, the prosecution could have cross-examined her about anything. And it would have, she would have been very vulnerable, and she would have had to have been pretty thick-skinned to go through with it, really. I was quite surprised that she would contemplate that, but it seemed, she was determined to do it.
By helping Diana, Jane was breaking ranks with her colleagues.
I felt very strongly about it, and I wanted it to be sorted out, and I wanted to have a professional standing back again for the photographers that were working in the royal circuit, and I just thought maybe it was a way of helping.
But Diana's actions on holiday with the Al Fayeds that summer seemed to undermine everything the case was trying to achieve.
In Saint-Tropez once, I was there about 3 or 4 weeks before she died, and she came over to the press boat, the British press boat, and said, how long will we stay? And she looked terribly upset and terribly stressed. And we were saying, we'll go if you want us to go. And she said, I didn't say I want you to go, I just want to know how long you're staying. And then she would go away, and then she did amazing things, like she'd get on the back of a jet ski and roar around with one of her sons. And you wondered what was going on. This was a lady that was sort of 1 minute asking for privacy, but instead of going into the privacy of the villa, she was doing all these amazing things which made great pictures, so I was a bit confused at sometimes.
The princess didn't bother to hide her affair with Dodi Al Fayed from the cameras either. While preparing her court case against certain paparazzi, she was whipping the rest of the photographers into a frenzy. It was a dangerous game. The court case was soon to become irrelevant. On the 31st of August, the fatal car accident took place in Paris, with motorbike-mounted paparazzi in pursuit. In the week that followed, Jane had a difficult decision to make.
I didn't want to photograph the funeral. I just thought the whole photographer thing too, the uncomfortable position of being seen as a photographer at that event, and me myself, I just felt sick. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to have another camera in front of anything to do with Diana. I didn't want to be seen as part of it.
I said, we've got to cover this funeral, Jane. It's an important occasion. We've covered when she first came on the scene. And it is the end of a story and an end of an event, a bit of history.
Jane was persuaded to change her mind.
The thing that I remember mostly is the sound. It's so noisy today, and all the aeroplanes and the cars going by and the people. And I think forevermore I'll remember that absolute hush.
I never ever want to do another day's work like that ever again. The whole thing was like a sort of dream, really. I mean, I couldn't think it was her, you know. I kept thinking back to, I can't think of her in a coffin and being dead. She was such a live, vibrant person. I couldn't relate to it at all. I think the point really that really upset me the most was the moment when William and Harry and Charles arrived at the Abbey, and they were there standing in front of me, albeit at a slight distance. I felt quite intrusive, looking down my lens at them. They were in such grief. And I felt my heart went out to them, and it was just such an awful moment to actually see the boys in front of me. And I just sort of had flashbacks of all the lovely times that I'd photographed them. You know, it just all came sort of like, you know, when you say you're drowning and everything flashes by in your life, but it was a bit like that. And I was sort of looking at them through my lens. I kept thinking of all those times when I'd seen them as little and her touching them and all that sort of stuff.
The strength of public grief shown at Diana's funeral surprised many.
I was probably more prepared for the reaction. Around the world I'd seen the huge draw that she had with people. I'd seen people's reaction, you know, completely get hysterical if she'd touched their hand or whatever. So, you know, I think I was more prepared for those sort of scenes.
But Jane wasn't prepared for the degree of hostility she and fellow photographers faced.
I remember getting up on the stand. The public was sort of looking at me, sort of look of venom, you know. I felt really, I felt like wearing a t-shirt saying, I'm not a paparazzi, I didn't upset her, you know, I wasn't involved. You know, because I just felt, I could feel the hatred from the people. I really, you know, I think perhaps I'm exaggerating, but I really did feel it, this hostility.
Diana's death transformed the media's relationship with the royal family, and for a short time with the public too.
The aftermath of her death was horrendous for all the press, and to turn so viciously on us to say, you printed photographs of her with her children, that was intrusive, that was what they wanted. And the reason people thought they knew Diana personally was because Diana lived her feelings openly. And that is why they bought magazines and newspapers. She had an incredible impact on people, and that will never be forgotten.
I suppose it is quite haunting, her image, to me. I say her image is very vivid in my mind still. Looking back, you realise what sort of part you were playing really in her and in the history of it. You know, it was actually quite exciting to be part of that. It's something to tell your grandchildren, isn't it, that you were part of this huge icon's life.